Good evening and welcome to today's business development. Starts you mean to go on. Business development with Sales Navigator. Thank you for joining me. If you're joining on LinkedIn or YouTube or wherever you are, I'm going to walk you through some of the things to do with Sales Navigator, why it matters, why it's important, why it can be helpful to you in developing and building your business. So we're just going to let the stream populate. We've sent out the reminders and all that kind of fun stuff. So we'll just let that kick in and then we will get started. Please do let me know. I'm not being ignorant. I'm just checking that all the bits and pieces have actually gone out so everybody can get in. And I can see, yes, I think we're live and there's me talking away. So we are going to kick in the session. We'll just let everybody come in. Let me know where you're joining from in the chat. If you can see us on the chat, please do let me know you're here. And we will get going in a couple of minutes. A lot of people... Hi, Jody. Jody, you were here last week, I think. I remember the name anyway. We've got a couple of glitches on YouTube by the looks of it. So if anybody has any trouble, please do let us know. You can flick over to LinkedIn and watch it there too. Or if you're on LinkedIn and you've got a glitch, you can watch it on YouTube. So it's summer, I get it. In the US, we're getting towards the end of your day. In the UK, it's into your evening and it's light nights. It's warm, it's nice. You want to probably spend some time. So I'm just going to give you a couple of thoughts and a couple of tips and tricks on how to do business development on Sales Navigator. Now, first things first, the common question I get asked about Sales Navigator is, should I have it? Is it worth the money? Now, that question really depends. Hi, Teresa. Hi, Jody. That question on whether you should use Sales Navigator or not really depends on what your plan is for LinkedIn. And some of you are going, plan? You need a plan to make your LinkedIn work. And where Sales Navigator has a massive advantage for you is it will help you find exactly the right people. So bang on the money, the right people, so that you can go, right, I know I'm building my network, I'm building my personal brand, I'm engaging with prospects, but I'm engaging with the right people. You know, one of the downsides or annoyances of LinkedIn.com is when you search for people, you get loads of random people. That's the big problem. So you go, I'm connecting with exactly the right people, but it gets more random and random as it goes on. And suddenly, and I've met people who go, I've been connecting for years with my target audience. And then I sit down and do an assessment with them. When they come onto our accelerator, I sit down and do their strategy with them. And I look through their connections. And in one instance, there was somebody who had 19,000 connections. And when we looked into it, like 35 were actually sweet spots. And they were wondering why they weren't making any headway. They just weren't talking to the right people. So of course, Sales Navigator is massive for looking for and finding the right people. Really important tool to use to get in front of the right people. Without it, it would be hit and miss. And I've got Sales Navigator up, so I wanted to share a couple of stats and tips and tricks. There is a bit of a buffering tonight on YouTube, and we did have a glitch with YouTube just before we went live. So if you're having any trouble, apologies, it's a glitch on YouTube. Now, I have got Sales Navigator up, and I wanted to kind of just talk to you about a couple of things on Sales Navigator that will help you and some things that will not help you. So first things first, I'm not going to go through every feature. We have a full breakdown course on Sales Navigator, how to use it, the works. But tonight I'm just going to give you a couple of tips and tricks of things you can do with Sales Navigator, with the core version of Sales Navigator, the cheapest version of Sales Navigator. So the first thing I want to talk about is, obviously when you go into Sales Navigator, you've got the home feed. Not going to talk about the home feed tonight. I did another session a couple of weeks ago and talked about that. I want to talk about the filters. So filters, lead filters and account filters. So this is where you can really drill down and find the right people. But let's start with lead filters. So lead filters allow you to find people by criteria, and there is a ton of criteria. Now, just as a disclaimer, I have the advanced version of LinkedIn Sales Navigator. So there are features that I have, some filters that I have that you might not see on your Sales Navigator. So I'm on the high package, so I see a lot more filters, a lot more data. So as I look in here, the first thing I've got is connections here. Now, you know how to use this, but I'm going to give you a tip. Number one, if you're looking to grow your network, you want to focus on building your network with second degrees. So if you've got prospects, if you know who your prospects are, it's very important that you focus on your second degree network. Third degree network, people are reluctant to connect. They're reluctant to engage. So third degrees can be an area of concern. So I would try to prioritize focusing on second degree connections as the people you should be targeting first of all. So connection, use that filter to find the people. Now, if you've got a small network, that might be a small number to begin with. But as you grow your network, your second degrees get bigger. You get more second degrees. So every time you add somebody, you increase your second degree network. You increase your first degree because they become a connection, but their connections become your second degrees. So you grow your network exponentially as you connect. So that's the first thing. Use the connections and focus on your second degrees. Now, I'm going to talk about this industry filter, and this industry filter, and I'm surprised other people don't talk about this because it's actually pretty important. And I've met and worked with hundreds of salespeople who didn't click onto this. The industry filter inside Sales Navigator on this side is actually linked to the individual's profile. So if I look at any company, say for an example, I want to target, my decision maker is a marketing manager in defense and aerospace, right? The logical thing to do is put defense in here as the industry and then put the job title in of marketing, right? Or marketing keyword. That's the logical thing to do. And it's brought up 6,000 people. And this also links to what some people say where they go, I can't find my prospects. I don't think my prospects are on LinkedIn. They are, but here's the problem. When you're a marketing manager, do you really designate the industry on your LinkedIn profile as defense and aerospace? If you're a HR manager and you're in manufacturing, do you say your industry is manufacturing, or do you say your industry is HR, human resources? So what we've worked out from this is, when we've done all the work, that around 50%, almost 50% of the people who work in particular industries have totally different industries on their profile. So I'll give you an example. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the home feed and I'm going to show you Microsoft. Right? World's biggest company, of course. Right? 220,000 employees. Now, bear with me. This is really important, right? Really important. Because if you use Sales Navigator, you may find that actually you lose out on prospects, you lose out on people because you're doing the searches in the wrong way. And I think this is going to be the big takeaway. I know some of you got glitching on the session, so I may actually shorten tonight's session just because of the glitching and maybe do a video. But I just want to show you a couple of things before we kind of call it quits on the glitching. So Microsoft here, 220,000 employees. Remember that number, 220,000 employees. The industry they're in is software development. 220,000 employees in software development. Okay, let's use Sales Navigator to look at all their employees. So it's now going to show 220,000, just short 200,000. It won't show me them all. LinkedIn will limit how many you can see, but you can see there's a lot of people here. Let's, out of curiosity, put the industry in that Microsoft is in. Software development, so 200,000. Based on this search, 200,000. Here we go. 100,000. 50% of your prospects are missing because you did the search that way. 50%. So if you're operating in a really niche industry and you do a lead search, you will eliminate 50%. And suddenly, when I discovered this, I realized that is why the majority of people who have small, very niche markets come to Sales Navigator and go, it's not worth it. I can't find my prospects. They're not on here. They are, but they're not in software development. They're in HR, they're in marketing, they're in finance, they're in accounting, they're in computer software, they're in all sorts of different industries, just not the industry that you thought they were in. So there's two ways to approach this. The first way to approach this is to actually search for the companies first. So when you search for the companies first, like I've got here, it's a little bit more tricky, but you get exactly the right people. You get exactly the right target audience because you've zeroed in carefully on the right companies. So you can see here, I've got a list of 1 million companies. Now that's way too many to deal with. So Sales Navigator organizes them into pages of 25. So I can do two things. Number one, I can individually select the companies out of this list that I want to target and save them into an account list. So I can select 1, 2, 3, and however many, and save them into an account list. So I can come back to them later. So select companies. That's the first way. And then I can search by that saved list of accounts. So if I save 500 companies into a list, I can go back to the lead search and search by their employees. Hopefully that makes sense. The other option I can do is select all the 25 on the page and say, show me all their employees. And it will show me all the employees for those first 25 companies. And then I could put their title in as marketing, and it will show me every person on LinkedIn who works for those companies in the marketing keyword role. So this is some of the simple things that you can do with Sales Navigator. So first of all, the industry search is not reliable. You will eliminate 50% of your prospects. Number two, if you search by company, you will find all of their employees on LinkedIn, and then you can search by the job titles in those companies. If you want to do it a bit more in bulk, you can search for companies themselves, select them, and then click Find All Employees. But if you've got a bigger list, I'll just show you with a bigger list. So let's say I go back to that list I did before in software development. Let me just go back. So I'll go back to that list of companies that I had. Yeah. I can select the ones I want. It might be 500, it might be 1,000, it might be however many I want. Select them and then save them. So you individually click the companies you want, save them to a list, name that list, and then I can go back to the lead search here. And I'll just show you, just expand the filters. And down at the bottom, I can actually search by the saved list. So I could pick the list of account list and type in the job title marketing for an example. And it will show me every person who works in marketing in those companies that I've saved. And it will bring up a massive list of people now, 51,000 people. And of course, now I can whittle that down to locations, seniority, just on seniority. I'll just put that in there. So seniority, director level, 7,500, or I could go C level, 735. So I can literally whittle that list down to exactly the right people. This is one of the big advantages of Sales Navigator. Now, some might think in the UK it's about, I think it's about £80 a month. It might be a little bit more in the US in dollars. Some people might, it's obviously cheaper in different places depending on your economics. But some people might weigh that up and go, is it worth having access to this for £80, $100, whatever the price point is where you are? Because it isn't a small amount of money. Well, think about it like this. How much are the right prospects worth to you? I don't get any cut or commission from LinkedIn, right? I don't get any cut or commission. So there's no incentive or financial benefit from me convincing you that Sales Navigator is something you should buy. If you can connect with more of the right prospects, if you can engage with more of the right prospects, in most cases for people watching me tonight, and I know it's a bit glitchy, so apologies for that. I'm going to wrap up shortly just so that we can do another loom and send it, because I know some people are having major issues. Imagine if you can connect with more of the right people, and in most cases, the cost of Sales Navigator is minimal compared to the size of the wins of, say, if you could be more focused in your outreach and who you engage with on the platform. So if you, for an example, can find more of exactly the right people, exactly the right targets, you are going to be more successful on LinkedIn. The key on LinkedIn is focus. You having a clearly defined audience, understanding who they are, understanding their pain points, finding and researching them on LinkedIn. And LinkedIn's full of tools and tips and insights. Sales Navigator's got loads of insights on what companies are doing, whether they're growing, contracting, what's going on in their world. That'll help you understand what's going on and how you can add value into their world. The days of just sending a sales pitch and getting a few easy wins are pretty much over. And that's come about primarily because, COVID, the pandemic, obviously forced a lot of people online. So more people went to LinkedIn and email to contact prospects. And some of it was quite lazy. It was sales pitches by robots, thinking that prospects are robots, and that has desensitized people. And so we have to do more. We have to show, now that we've put in the effort, we have to attempt to build relationships and do sales like it should be done. Actually understanding the customer, understanding their needs, doing the research and going in, and it will take multiple approaches, and I don't mean multiple pitches, I mean multiple attempts to build that relationship, to show some relevance. You might have to put some more effort in. There was a time where you could set up an email automation, and it wasn't so long ago, You could set up an email automation, dump in 5,000 records, let it run every day and pick up the low-hanging fruit. But the reality is our prospects now are more picky about what they read and what they open on their emails. I know my emails are overrun with stuff, and so I'm very triage based on my emails because I get so much stuff coming through. So we have to put in more effort to be relevant, to add some value, to show we've done some work. You can tell, I can tell, you can tell when you get a message from somebody where it looks like they've written it themselves and it's for you versus something that's been done en masse and feels generic. So what Sales Navigator allows you to do, and sadly what most people do with Sales Navigator is they scrape it and can collect emails and then they just literally pitch people. Where the value is using Sales Navigator to look at the individuals, understand what's going on in their world, understand their role, how long they've been with the company, what other interests have they got, what do they engage with on LinkedIn, what's the trends in their business, what's been happening in the business, have they had any recent developments that could be helpful to me, so that I can research, build those relationships, not just with the decision maker, but the influencers around the decision maker. One of the interesting stats that I heard, I was on a panel at LinkedIn, and one of the people from LinkedIn, it was Brian from the Dublin office, he was talking about the challenge of sales right now. And he was talking about the number of people who are now either consulted or involved in a decision to purchase. So for many years, and way back when, in many cases, people would make a decision on their own. And over time, it's got more and more people have got involved in the decision making. And so, and you'll have experienced this. You have your champion, your point of contact who's red hot, wants to go with you, ready to buy, but they have to bring in the finance department or the purchasing department, or they have to bring in another department to consult for two reasons. Sometimes it's because the decision maker doesn't want to make the decision on their own, and that's kind of a fear of making a mistake, so they bring in other people to consult so that they help them make a better decision. And there's some wisdom in that, but it does take longer. There's some of that. Some of it's corporate controls. Companies want to make sure they get best value, so they bring more people in. But what we've seen over the last 12, 18 months is actually that decision-making pool of people, the people who are consulted, is getting bigger. So you should be looking through Sales Navigator to find out who could be the potential other parties who might get consulted. Would it make sense to strategically build relationships with them, get them connected so they're seeing me in their feeds with my content, building some relationships, not after you find out, but before. So say for an example, I was prospecting Microsoft, and I've done some work with Microsoft. I might go, well, that's the decision maker. That person there is the decision maker. I found them on Sales Nav. That's the person I'm going to try and build the relationships with. Okay. At the same time I'm doing that, think about who might be the decision makers they might have to feed into, who might be the people that they have to go to get either approval or get their opinion. How can I influence that group ahead of time? How can I build some relationships ahead of time so that I'm not in that position where I get so far with my opportunity, and then suddenly all these complete strangers come into the mix who have not had that benefit of that length of relationship, and now they're consulting into it, making decisions on it cold. How can I influence those people ahead of time? Now, you won't get it perfectly right, but this is one advantage of Sales Navigator. It helps you see the hierarchy, the decision making, and who's involved and where they're involved. So it's more than just thinking about it as who can I find. It's about how do I approach this account? How do I approach this company in the most effective way that's going to get me the best outcome? And this is where Sales Navigator is really powerful. It's really impactful to do it this way. So think about Sales Navigator as not just a directory. Think about it as a research tool. Imagine if you could do all your research on a prospect and then start your conversations and messages where you know what's been going on in their world. Would that help? Or would it be just okay to just pass on those generic things that we see of, oh, you guys seem to be going great guns at the moment. Okay. I've spotted you guys have been growing in your marketing team. I'm just wondering, is LinkedIn on your radar for building out? Or I spotted you're building your software development team. I'm just curious, do you have any shortage of capacity at the moment? Or I spotted you're hiring for a lot of developers. Is there any, would you like to look at any outsourced solutions? So the more relevant you get, the more you can target. So Sales Navigator has these features. The other thing is that I want to show you, just before we wrap up, we'll do a short and sweet one tonight. Voice is going, and we've got some buffering issues. When you go to a company on Sales Navigator, it fills you with rich insights that will help you do this. So when I look through Microsoft's page here, I can load up all of my personas, which is personas, by the way, just at the top here, are just how you can define who do you want to talk to. Is it marketing? Is it sales? Is it business development? Is it C-level? Where are they located? All that kind of stuff you can define. And it will auto-populate some of the people it thinks based on your activity. The more you use Sales Navigator, the more accurate it gets. That could be useful for you. Then we come down and you can actually create an account map for the company. So you can start to drag and drop people in to fit them in to create your, create your account map. Now this next section here is in the advanced section, which is the buying intent. And this looks at how they're engaging with your company page, how prospects are engaging with your profiles, if they visit your website, and I'll just show you down here. So you can see here, a number of decision makers have visited Maverick's company page, Maverick's website there. So you see the top there, today, somebody from Microsoft has visited Maverick's website. And it gives you a list of the people who are paying attention to your website. So you can see all of that and who it is. So it gives you a ton of data. Now this is the more advanced Sales Navigator, Sales Navigator Advanced, but all this insight, even down to, let me just find their head count, if I can find it, just bear with me. Here we go. So we can see that Microsoft, 220,000 employees, but we can actually look and go, well, where are the functions? And I can look at the different functions and go, what's going on? So I can see actually Microsoft has been reducing the headcount in their sales, marketing, and business development. How does that tailor how I would outreach? How does that tailor? Well, maybe budgets are under pressure. Maybe they don't have as much resource as they did a year ago, which is highlighted here. Is there an opportunity to augment that? Is there an opportunity to provide them with a more efficient way of doing things? Suddenly I can focus what I'm doing, focus my message based on what's going on in the company. And I can see that the company over the last 3 months have reduced their headcount in these departments by 1%. Now, in a small business, that's not a lot, but in Microsoft, a 1% reduction in a department or an area of business is huge. And of course, I can look at the total count. And if I look at the total count, 2 years up, they're 9%, but over the last 6 months, they're down 2%. So it's only a small reduction yeah, in percentage terms, but since July 2022, they've reduced their headcount by nearly, is it 6,000? Yep. Yeah, it's just over 6,000 people. That's quite a chunk of people that's come out of their business. But that gives me an insight as to, okay, they're looking to control costs a bit more. They're looking to be a bit more efficient. Okay, how can I tailor what I do to help them in that area? How can I help the sales team? How can I help the business development team? How can I help the marketing team be more efficient? Sales Navigator gives me that insight. So when I go in to approach Microsoft, am I going to go, you're an awesome company, you should do this because it's cool and trendy and you'll grow and all this kind of, or will I be going, actually it's more of an efficiency message, it's more about productivity, it's more about effectiveness rather than another shiny object kind of growth program. So hopefully this gives you a flavour of what's achievable with Sales Navigator, and it is more than just an 80 quid or $100 and odd directory. It's an insight tool that if you bolt it together and have a whole strategy, something I do with our accelerators members, we write a strategy together of who you're going to go after. We talk about who's the most valuable clients. So let me give you one more thought before you go away. Before we finish. And I'm keeping it short, primarily because I've got a terrible sore throat tonight. There's a buffering issue, and I know it's summer, so we've got a low number of us here tonight, so I don't want to go on too long. So one of the things you can do is inside Sales Navigator, you can actually search by the reduction or growth in a company's headcount. So for an example, and I'm just doing this ridiculously, right? Companies where they've had more than a 5% growth in their headcount. And then I can filter that by the size of the company. So I can see here in this size of organization, 200 to 500, that have had more than a 5% increase in their headcount. Now, if I wanted to be more dramatic, I could put a 50 on that. So in other words, they've increased their headcount by 50% or more, and they're in the 200 to 500 category. And suddenly, I get a list of 1,500 companies. And I could filter that by industries. And this is where we start to talk about what I call the most valuable clients. The companies where the right set of circumstances are happening in their business to make it a good moment for us to engage them and to offer value into them. So for an example, a company like that is growing or increasing their sales team might want to upskill their sales team so we could have an advantage talking to them. If you're a marketing agency, for an example, and a company is reducing their headcount, they might look for the efficiencies of going with freelancers or an external agency rather than having the resource in-house. So you can basically map out and go, let's go for companies where they're increasing. You could have a company where they're increasing their headcount in particular departments, but overall their headcount's coming down. So there's lots of different scenarios you can put together to find companies where they are in a circumstance or in an environment that might make it advantageous for you. They might be in your sweet spot. So even down to, I did one the other day with a company whereby they had a big headcount and a small marketing department. That gives you an indication of one of two things. Either they don't do a lot of marketing, but we know from those types of industries that they generally do, or they rely on external parties. And so we could go, right, here's a bank of companies with a small in-house team, but actually must have, because we know their industry, quite an external support base. And that gives an opportunity to offer our services, to offer a more competitive option into those things. So there's lots of ways you can use Sales Navigator, but it is more than a directory. It's a massive tool to help give you more insight to more intelligently reach your prospects. Now, I've done this really quick tonight, but if you're really up for using Sales Navigator, I'm just going to put it on screen for you. There's a ton of articles on our website, maverick.io. So if you want to go to our website, you can find a ton of articles on Sales Navigator. I lost my train of thought for a moment there. But also on our website, under our digital courses section, we've actually got a whole training piece, not only on how to use Sales Navigator, but how to start talking to your prospects too. So the whole piece, how to talk to them, how to engage them, what to say in a message, the whole piece is there. So if you want to go and master Sales Navigator, we've got a course called Social Selling with Sales Navigator. I've got a feeling it's £95. You can get in, get going and get started straight away. And there's a ton of different resources in there, templates, examples, even down to a tracker that you can use to keep tabs on who you're working on if you want to keep an offline record. So I'm going to wrap up. Apologies for the buffering on YouTube. If you want to know more about how we can help you win business on LinkedIn without sending countless sales pitches, if you want to really build your business, build that revenue, win those clients, drop me a message. My email address is on screen, hi@maverick.io. I pick up that email. It comes to me. I see it. hi@maverick.io. Send me an email and say, Dean, I want to grow my business on LinkedIn. And I'll come back to you and I'll give you some options of how we can help. I'll show you some options of how we can help. And if that's of interest, we can book a call. We can have a time to chat about it, see if it's a fit for you. So hi@maverick.io. It should be on screen. Drop me an email. Say, Dean, I want to grow my business on LinkedIn, but I need some help. What options are there? And I'll share some options and we can chat about it if it's relevant. Thank you so much for coming tonight. We are doing another webinar next week. We'll try and get the YouTube glitch and the buffering glitch sorted. I think it's picked up and sorted itself out a little bit now. If we're not connected or you're not familiar with Maverick or myself, Dean, please come find me on LinkedIn. Follow the Maverick Company page. Appreciate all of that support. As I say, give us favor with the gods of social media, or the LinkedIn gods, the algorithm. So thank you so much. I'll be back next week with another webinar. Go check it out and I'll see you there.
Dean's strategy helped me find clients. I created clients for my business with this program. It works.
My connections have grown, my reach has grown, my views have grown, and actually so has my business revenue. Over that 3-month period, I have actually signed up 3 new clients at a cost of £50,000. That's over just a 3-month period. So it's worth it.
Every single time there's a session, I just feel like it's just a golden moment. Every single session brings me something really new and really valuable, and I've started to attract high value client sales, which is wonderful, and it's really given our business a boost.
Dean Seddon and the Maverick team, what can I say? Apart from absolutely awesome.
The results have been amazing. We have had loads of incoming leads coming into our lead funnels and workflow processes on our website. And we've also built a really successful community around the content that we produce and push out into our LinkedIn channels. My team has also learned a lot from working with the team at Maverick, and they've also helped us really create fantastic events on LinkedIn.
I'm much more confident, and all of that, without a shadow of doubt, is down to the work and the training and support I've had from Dean and the rest of his team as part of the Accelerator course.
In terms of the training, Maverick have been absolutely fantastic. They've been so supportive. They've talked me through all the stages of what you have to do, why you have to do it, the benefits of doing it the way they tell us to do it. And I've gone from being with no social media to being actually addicted, because I can see what this can do for lead generation, generating new business. It's just been incredible, and Maverick have been superb throughout the whole process.
The guys at Maverick, they've been great. Dean and his team, very knowledgeable, wealth of experience, and we've had quite a few one-to-ones now that really taught us the depths, the nooks and crannies of LinkedIn, which none of us would have known before, and I think we can continue to use that going forward, and it's been great so far, and I hope to continue to use it as well.